And the reason that I'm filming this on October 21st for 6 weeks, like that doesn't really make sense, but it feels like this message is urgently needed right now. What we're experiencing is massive solar flares all over the world, and it could be affecting you in so many different ways. For example, I'm someone who really prioritizes my sleep. I love my self-care, and last night I just could not get a good night rest. I was tossing and turning the whole entire night, and these are the things that kind of happen when we experience solar flares. The things that you once used to do, habits that were easy for you, even easy for your body, like sleeping really well throughout the night, are suddenly not so easy for you. There's also a lot of things that come up during solar flares that maybe you don't realize are actually related to solar flares. So some of those are miscommunications as well as feeling misunderstood and misalignments. Miscommunications are happening at an all-time high right now. I've been having conversations with people where I find myself like repeating the same thing, and I'm like, repeat back to me what I said so that I can know that you heard me. Like, there have been so many miscommunications happening just throughout professional conversations, romantic conversations, personal friendship conversations, miscommunications with family. So if you're experiencing this, maybe you can kind of refer to it in the way of like experiencing a lot of conflict right now, or feeling very lonely and feeling very misunderstood. I want you to know that that is happening. We know that it's happening because we're feeling it, but I also want you to know that it is a reflection of the solar flares that we're experiencing right now. We're also experiencing a lot of misalignment, and I've personally been experiencing this as well, so you are not alone. And what misalignment sounds like is trying to connect with someone and the connection is just unable to happen. It just does not go together. So one of the examples for this is reaching out to someone and saying, hey, I'm having a super hard time this week. I would really love to do this activity together. And maybe they say, sure, I'd love to do that activity together. But they come over and they have an intention to do something completely different. And so when this happens for a very, very sensitive person, it can feel really disappointing. It can feel really lonely. To have a change of plans can add even more stress to our system. And I just want to remind us all that stress is not just perceived stress. Stress can really be broken down in so many different ways. There's physical stress, there's emotional stress, there's mental stress, there's so many different types of stress. Our body feels stress whenever we're hungry, and stress is designed to help us, because when you get hungry and your body goes into that stress response, the only thing that you can think about is how to feed yourself and where you're going to get food, right? So when we have a change of plans, when someone does something that's completely unexpected from what they said that they were going to do, all of these things contribute to our stress levels. And when we have multiple misalignments with people every single day, let's say you're texting a joke to a friend and they're like, why would you even say that? Or you try to connect with someone, like I'm always trying to connect with people in stores, like when I'm checking out at the grocery store and the cashier is scanning all of my items, I'm always cracking jokes with her or with him and trying to just create some conversation and create some joy there. And over this past week, sometimes when I go to have conversations or crack a joke, like I don't know, it was the other day that I went to buy some coconut waters or something and they were on sale. And she pointed out to me that all of them were damaged. So I was like, oh, that must be why they're on sale, right? And she just looked at me and she was like, no. And it was just a complete shutdown of connection, right? And these are just small interactions. Of course, that interaction didn't ruin my day or anything. Everyone's entitled to not want to connect or not want to joke or not want to talk about the damaged coconut waters. And it's not personal and it's not an attack at me. But when you're a sensitive person and you're doing these bids for connection over and over and over throughout the day, and they're not being met, you're going to find yourself feeling really energetically drained. You're trying so hard to share a compliment with someone, to just connect with someone in a small way, and it's just not working. And the reason that we do this is because we are wired to be herd animals. We are wired to feel healthier when we're in connection with other people. So if you don't connect with people at all, if you don't ever joke with people, you never talk to your friends, family, anything like that, then what you're going to experience is a decrease in your overall health. When you literally just sit next to another person, your auric field, which extends 3 to 6 feet out from your body, depending on your vibration and how you're feeling in that moment, it actually mixes with that person. So whether or not you're actually cuddling with that person, your auras are cuddling together. And when your aura is cuddling with another person's aura, you naturally get a lot healthier. The vibration within your body shifts. And if you were plugged into all of these different sorts of medical tests, and we could test your heart rate and test your brain waves and all of these things, you would see that your health and wellness spikes and it skyrockets by just being next to another person, by just having an interaction with someone where they're like, oh yeah, haha, that is a funny thing. Like when you guys just have a beautiful and peaceful connection, it actually boosts your overall health and your overall wellness. So keep that in mind as we're navigating all of these difficult things. Maybe connecting with another person deeply might be really challenging right now, but just sitting next to a stranger is something that you could do. Maybe sit next to someone on the bench at the park or something like that so that you can benefit from connecting with other people in any way, whether it be in their physical presence, talking to them about the topics that you like, or asking them about their day, asking them, hey, how are you feeling this week? You don't even have to talk to them about solar flares or anything like that if they're not super into energy and astrology and auras and all of these topics. But you can just ask them, hey, how's your week been? Has it been a high week, a low week? What's been coming up for you? What are the highlights or the lowlights of your week, right? And just start to connect with people just for the sake of connection. When you do this, you're going to notice that your health skyrockets. You become much more stable, much more secure, and your nervous system becomes a lot more regulated. So that means as these solar flares and as these different energetic shifts come up and destabilize you, you're not as wobbly. You're not as shaken up by all of these different changes. And I know that all of us see people on the internet, in the world, however we see them, and they just seem so much more stable than we are sometimes. I know that I often felt this way, and I used to feel so jealous that all the people that I saw on social media were just stable, and I was feeling thrown around in the waves of life, whether it be a conflict, a trigger, losing my job, like all of these different things would really throw me around. And I felt really unhealthy during that time. My stress levels were really, really high. But when I started to introduce astrology and learning about these types of energetic forecasts, I could actually start to predict what is coming in the next month or in the next 6 weeks. And that way I could be a lot more prepared for exactly how to handle all of these changes. So today I'm going to be sharing with you the exact practices that I recommend for you, the exact practices that I'm using, and I'm even going to link those in the description box down below. So make sure that you watch this whole entire video as well as check out the description box because you're going to have so many tools that you can use to just instantly advance through whatever it is that you're currently facing. I also want us to really talk about something that I channeled this morning that is really, really important. And I think that so often when we find ourselves in these difficult situations, whether we're tired and we didn't sleep well, whether we're in a conflict with someone, whatever it is, we find ourselves wanting so badly to just get through these hard times. We just want to get through the toughness. We want to get through the struggle. And if you're watching this live and you can relate to that, please drop a 1 in the chat because this is such a common experience to have, right? When you're feeling sick, you want to get better. When you're feeling low, you want to get higher. This is natural and this is so incredibly common. So it's hard to remind ourselves of this wisdom because the ego is telling us we just need to get better. This is urgent. If you have an injury, if you're stabbed or something, you just want to pull the thing out right away, right? It's this urgent, rushing, stressful ego response that we have when we're facing difficulty and when we're facing tough times. But the soul and the heart have other wisdom available for us. The soul and the heart know that the goal in this situation is not to just get better as quickly as possible. It's actually to be with yourself through it all. And we know this when it comes to marriage, right? In the wedding vows, we hear through sickness and health, through thickness and thin, through all of these different things. And this includes emotional and heart sickness. How can we expect another person to commit to us through sickness and health if we cannot commit to ourselves through sickness and health? When we're feeling emotional sickness, when we're feeling tough times, and when we're feeling struggles, that is the time to devote to yourself even more deeply, to nourish your body even more fully. This is the time that it is the most important to show up for yourself. And I'm going to share some practices with you on exactly how you can show up for yourself, because I know that we all have different ideas of what it looks like to show up for yourself. Uh, what is my next note here? So, a mindset that you can use when you're going through really difficult times is the mindset of celebration. Celebrate what your body is doing. Celebrate the fact that you have difficult emotions coming up, that you have conflicts coming up for you to learn from and grow from. This is a completely different mindset than being so upset that we're facing all of these difficulties or facing all of these hardships. Another thing that I want you to keep in mind is that even if you're not facing something difficult right now, it's natural to feel stress levels, or if it's natural to feel heightened discomfort during this time of year. The reason is because your body has a memory, and we can learn this in the emotion code, and the body keeps the score. There's multiple books about how our memories and our energy is stored in our muscle tissue, it's stored in our organs, and it's stored in our body. So around this time of year is when the holidays start picking up in the US. And for myself, I used to always get anxiety. I remember on the first day of school, I would always feel so incredibly stressed leading up to that day. And even though now I'm not in school anymore, I don't start school in September. In September, every single year, I find myself getting really stressed, getting really worried about what people are going to think about me. And that's because my body is still processing these old emotions from my childhood, from when I couldn't fully process them because I had homework, because I had all of these other things to focus on and to deal with. So when our body starts to process emotions, whether you notice like, oh, I'm feeling intense today and I'm thinking about my ex, maybe it's because you guys had a fight on this day the year prior, or 5 years prior, or 10 years prior. So the healthier that you become, the more that your body can be aware and be in touch of all of these subconscious emotions. And they were in your subconscious limiting you and impacting your behaviors before. But now they're able to come to the surface for you to finally process them and clear them out. So this is actually a really, really good thing. When I'm sad about the past or I find myself reminiscing, I celebrate myself for creating enough safety in my present moment to be able to experience all of those things of the past. It's so important not to demonize the way that we naturally respond and react to these energies. So if you notice yourself reliving fights that you had in a past relationship and you just want to go on a run, you just want to bang on a pillow, you just want to talk about it for hours and hours and hours in a loop. Whatever it is that you're feeling called to do, it's so important to not demonize our natural responses to our discomfort. Our discomfort is here to guide us. It's here to teach us and to lead us. And when we see it as the demon, as the enemy, or as the villain, then we're not able to actually gain all of the lessons and wisdom that these universal lessons are trying to teach us. So every single day, our mind and our body are facing things that we've never faced before, even if it's a memory, even if it's an old emotion or something of that nature. And it's so important to be compassionate to ourselves as we face these things. I'm going to say that again. Every single day, we face things that we've never faced before, and it's so important to be compassionate to ourselves as we face these things. Maybe it's your default to be hard on yourself for running back into those old emotions that you've already worked through, or dealing with a problem that you've dealt with before, or whatever it could be. But it's really important, if you want to grow in self-esteem, grow in self-compassion, if you want more confidence, more courage to take inspired action in your everyday life, then we need to be more compassionate with ourselves. So for the rest of October, we're going to be shifting from Libra to Scorpio season. And the main themes of this shift are inner transformation, emotional release, and self-empowerment. So some of the things that could really support you for the rest of this month are doing a digital detox, clearing your habits, taking a camping trip or something, leaving your phone at home, actually taking the time offline. And I know that this might be challenging at first. You might find yourself being bored or something like that, especially if you spend a lot of time online or a lot of time working or a lot of time in your normal everyday habits. But when you just do something different, whether it be taking a different route to work or not being on your phone, not listening to a podcast on your commute, whatever different activity that you're choosing in that moment, it actually does help rewire the subconscious mind, create neuroplasticity in our brain, and makes it so much easier for us to make healthier choices and create healthier habits in the future. So it can be really, really effective to just do something different, even if it's something small, even if you wear different colored socks than you usually do. But a big transformational practice that can completely shift your life and help you transform and release all of these emotions that are coming up and empower your soul is doing a digital detox. Unplugging from the internet, unplugging from the world, even unplug your Wi-Fi, unplug that EMF, and allow yourself to just experience the universe, to just experience the earth as it was before all of these things were created. Just listen to the birds, go on a nature walk, collect leaves, make a collage. These sorts of things are so incredibly healthy for us, and they truly do add so much more vitality and longevity to our lives. They decrease our stress. And so often we think that in order to decrease our stress or in order to get through tough times, you have to do a lot of stuff. But the truth is that sometimes doing less actually allows your body to complete the cycles that it wasn't able to complete before. And so then you can completely evolve and completely transform. When I do a digital detox, I kind of think of it as going into my own little butterfly cocoon and coming out as a completely new and what am I trying to say? Emerging as a new version of myself that is a more elevated version of myself, a more courageous version of myself, a more empowered version of myself. So some other things that you can do that can help you with this self-empowerment and emotional release are creating an altar space or a reading nook. It's so important for you to have a space in your home that you feel really, really safe, that you feel safe to just unplug and enjoy an activity, maybe do a drawing, maybe that's where you do your scrolling. You don't have to unplug in this space, but to just have your own space that's exactly the way that you would design it. This is so important because it actually activates our intuition. It's important to design a space that speaks to our soul, and it's also important for us to be in a space that our soul has influenced and our soul has designed. In this lifetime, we're trying to create our soul vision in this present reality. And creating a nook or creating an art piece is one of the small ways that we can practice bringing our vision into this present reality. And our brain can start to see how that's happening more and more. And that can create more evidence for us of how manifestation is truly possible for us. So it can really be quite incredible. I also just want to apologize. I know I'm tripping over my words a lot today, and this is unusual for me, but it's probably because of the solar flares. I feel like my own wires are like being crossed and all of this stuff. So I myself am actually going to be taking this same exact advice after we film this video here together. So the next thing that's really going to help you, if you haven't done breath work before, you need to start doing breath work. I'm not talking about relaxed breathing. I'm talking about psychoactive, psychotropic, holotropic, psychedelic, the most intense breath work that you can possibly find. And it's really important for you to do this with your full heart. I see so many people do breath work as a breathwork facilitator and they are apprehensive. They don't really like give their all into what they're doing. And you get out of something what you put into it. So even when I'm doing breathwork alone in my house, no one's watching me. It doesn't matter how seriously I take it. I could literally stop the experience at any time if I wanted to. But I will push even harder during those times to prove to myself that I am showing up for myself, that I can trust myself, that I am someone who can rely on myself. This builds self-esteem to go as hard as you possibly can and to really commit to letting go of that old version of you, to overcoming the resistance. When I do breath work and I've done 10,000 plus hours of breath work, I still have resistance every single time. There's still all of these things that come up that I need to do or that I want to do that are just somehow blocking me from being able to sit down and do some breath work or do some meditation. But this is natural. This is part of the process. That part of me that is resisting doing what's best for me is the part that I'm releasing in that breath work. And I'm so aware of that. So even though it's challenging, I choose to be with myself. I choose to give myself compassion. I can notice in that moment that there's different parts of me that are conflicting. And how I show up for myself in that moment is going to determine how I trust myself in the future. So I choose to be really compassionate to myself, really, really kind to myself whenever I'm experiencing resistance or procrastination. These things are not bad things. These things are the different parts of your subconscious and the different parts of your inner self that are trying to scream to you, hey, I need some attention. I have a need right now. I'm scared, right? The part of me that often resists doing the things that I know are best for me and I know are healthiest for me is probably scared. She's scared of who I'm going to be on the other side of that breathwork journey. She's scared of what that breathwork journey is going to bring up for us. She's scared of the pain that we're going to face as we transcend that pain and let go of it all. But it's a lot more painful to carry this pain than to face it and let go of it and to move forward into a much lighter and more empowered life. So I'm going to link the exact breathwork that I use that is so incredibly transformative. I use this whenever I'm feeling emotionally triggered, whenever I feel like I need a soul reset or I need to recharge myself in any way. And this is a perfect practice to use during this time of year, during all of the solar flares and all of the astrological shifts that we're currently facing. So you can find the link to the specific practices that I have used as well as share with my students. And we have so many incredible results from these practices, and you can find all of those in the description box below. Now let's move into the energy forecast for November. November is all about transformation and healing. And I know that the word healing can trigger us a little bit. I know that I used to be triggered by the word healing. I used to feel like I was constantly being told that I needed to heal and constantly being told that I didn't need to heal. And I was receiving all of these conflicting messages and I was being told how to heal and whether the things that I went through were actually bad enough to heal from and all of this stuff. So if you are there or if you've ever been there, I'm sending you some love. I'm sending you some compassion. Healing can be such a confusing process when we're first getting into it and we don't know where to start or what practices to even begin with. So I want us all to just start here together. Healing is the process of becoming the healthiest version of yourself. Healing can be having a cup of tea. Healing can be having a deep conversation. Healing can be doing psychotropic breath work in your home and screaming bloody murder to the point that you lose your voice, which is what happened for me over the weekend. Healing can be absolutely anything. Healing is the process of setting yourself free from blockages and limitations. And blockages and limitations are things that we all have. We develop them because we're wired to develop them. The way that the human brain is wired is that we naturally in our human nature are going to believe the things that other people tell to us. So if someone tells you, hey, there's a bear coming, there's a bear that's going to come eat you, you're going to start running. You're not going to even have a moment of skepticism or not believing this person, right? And so this is how we operate today, even though we don't live in our hunter-gatherer era that our brains were developed for. When someone tells you, hey, you're being too loud, or hey, you're doing this, we just instantaneously believe it as truth instead of questioning and being skeptical or critical of whether or not that is actually true. So we start to adopt, we grow up. I'm imagining I go to this like one river and all of the rocks grow into the tree and into the bark. And that's kind of what you're experiencing with blockages and limitations. We grow up with all of these people's rocks. Maybe they said, hey, you shouldn't be so loud. Hey, it's silly to want to do this. Hey, you wear way too bright of colors, or this or that, or whatever it is. And all of these words and projections get internalized. They grow into our bark, they grow into who we are. So then, when we're alone and we're talking to ourselves, we start to say these things to ourselves. We start to check ourselves every time we wear something that is too bright because someone once told us that it was too bright. And you'll say these things to yourself in your own voice, your own internal voice. And it's really, really tricky. But when you can stop and actually realize what is being said to you, take a few deep breaths and start to listen to that voice, and eventually you'll be able to hear it in the voice that it was told to you. These statements don't come from your soul, they don't come from your intuition, they don't come from your higher self. These are things that we have grown to adopt and adapt to because that's what we were accustomed to and how we grew up in this world. We're naturally wired to be adaptable, to evolve. So when someone tells us, hey, you're too loud, we're naturally wired to quiet down. And it isn't until many, many years later that we realize, wait, I've actually been living a really quiet life for a really long time. And I just want to sing, I just want to scream, I just want to fra-la-la all the time. This is what it is to break through our blockages and limitations. This is what it is to heal. It requires removing that stone that's telling you that you're too loud, and then you're going to have a hole in your bark, right? And you're going to need to put some fertilizer in there. You're going to need to do some things so that that hole in the bark of your tree gets healed and it gets filled up and it becomes not a weak point in the tree, but a strong point because you have purposefully and intentionally gone in there and strengthened that area. That is what healing is. That is what it is to free ourselves from our own limitations. Your limitations are not your fault, but your healing is your responsibility because this is what allows us to reach our highest potential in this lifetime. And I don't know about you, but I am here to reach my highest potential in this lifetime. There's absolutely nothing that is going to deter me from being the absolute best version of myself, not even myself. Not even myself. So when I have resistance to my own growth, when I have judgments about my own healing journey or my blockages or limitations or my past, I lean into compassion, and compassion creates transformation. If you're new to all of this healing stuff, you don't have to do a lot in order to heal. All you need to do is to have awareness and compassion. Both of those mindsets create a whole new frequency within the body and allow our subconscious mind to just start to naturally heal and process, start to naturally shed and release. And this helps us lead to higher levels of courage, higher levels of confidence, higher levels of spiritual transformation, spiritual connection, connecting with our spirit guides, connecting with our higher self, connecting with God. These things are truly where our confidence and courage comes from. And when we can remove all of those statements, all of those rocks in our bark, that's when we can actually free ourselves to being the version of ourselves that we were designed and created to be, being the best version of ourselves, being the version of ourselves that's reaching our highest potential without a doubt. So, for the beginning of November here, the first 2 weeks of November, it's so important to lean into your healing. And that can just be noticing through awareness what's coming up for you, keeping a journal or a dream log of what are the themes that are coming up for you in your subconscious mind. What are the feelings that you're feeling? Maybe you start to identify your feelings in different words. I like to say that sometimes I'm feeling sticky or spiky, or sometimes I'm feeling hot, sometimes I'm feeling cold, or like I need a hug. Like that's a feeling, like you need a hug can be an emotion, it can be a feeling. I used to teach the emotion wheel. I used to teach emotional intelligence. And I felt that using these systems of are you happy? Are you sad? Are you angry? Are you glad? It really robbed us from what we're feeling. And when we allow ourselves to feel whatever it is that we're feeling, foamy, slippery, spiky, angry, whatever you're feeling, that's when you allow yourself to heal. Because as a child, the reason we're not healing from these things is because we weren't allowed to feel these things. And when we've been suffocated in one area, it blocks us, it stifles us, it creates stagnation in our growth process and in our growth journey. So if you want to set yourself free from stagnation, I'm seeing like a whole dam, like a river that has been dammed up, and we're opening the dam, and all that water is flowing out as far and as hard as it possibly can. I don't know if you guys have seen when the water flows through a dam. It is terrifying, honestly, how much power that water has. That's what you're experiencing right now. You've been in this state of stagnation. You've been all of this water in a dam. And now you can use breath work. You can use all of these different practices to unlock the doors to the dam and allow yourself to freaking launch forward with power, with sound, with all of these things. And that's the exact energy that we're moving into for mid to late November. So I strongly encourage you to lean into your healing practices for the next 4 weeks, the next 30 days. Whenever you're watching this, lean into your healing practices. If you're watching this in the future and we're experiencing solar flares or whatever it is that we're experiencing, the best thing you can do is lean in. Notice what it's like to be that stagnant river. Write poetry about it, make music about it, really, really love it. Because that is how you get the keys to unlocking the dam and launching into that aligned future that you've been wanting to launch into. So mid to late November, that's the time to launch. And your launch, your ability to quantum leap, to elevate your life, to transform, is going to be determined by how deep you allow yourself to go. So in the next 30 days, allow yourself to get deranged, allow yourself to go deep as heck. We're going through death cycles, we're going through so many different astrological events. And the deeper that you allow yourself to go, the more you can expand in mid to late November. When we give ourselves space to hold the depth, that's where we create even more space for our clarity, even more space for our vision. That's where we're literally given the exact next steps. So you've now, at this point, once we get to mid to late November, you've moved all this old energy out of the way. You have healed all of these karmic loops. You have broken curses. You have done ancestral healing. You have broken through so many layers of procrastination and bad habits and negative self-talk and inner critic and all of this stuff, so that you can now come back up from that depth and expand into this world in every way. Create even broader horizons. Get even more clarity, even more insight on exactly how to move through the world, exactly what to say, exactly what to buy, exactly what to do. So many of us are so passionate about nervous system regulation and wanting a more regulated nervous system. We want more inner peace. We want more safety and security. This is how to get it. It's surrendering to the natural astrological cycles that our world is facing. You're facing them too. And when we don't try to fight them and when we can truly surrender to them, that's when we can allow ourselves to transform and go with the ebbs and flows of all of these energetic shifts, right? It is an uncomfortable time right now, and it's setting you up for a higher level of adventure, a higher level of freedom in every single area of your life than maybe you've ever experienced before. I say this as someone who's witnessed thousands and thousands of people completely transform their life in just 30 days or just an hour, just a breathwork session. Literally, one training resulting in getting the complete download of exactly what business you should be starting, exactly how much you should be charging for your spiritual gifts, attracting those dream clients. I have watched this happen for so many people. I have watched so many people go from being reactive and constantly snapping at their family members to feeling like the goddess that they've always known that they're meant to be, and being able to behave in that way too, being able to make the choices that align with that as well. So I want you to know, even if you haven't seen the evidence for it, I've seen the evidence for it. I have worked with thousands and thousands and thousands of people and watched how potent this transformation can be, just from the stuff that we're talking about right here and right now. So I want you to know that this could be your catalyst. The fact that your soul led you to this moment for whatever reason, this could be your catalyst if you want it to be. This could be the start of, I'm seeing a common word on social media these days called the winter arc. This could be your winter arc. This could be finally letting go of all of the bullshit from the past, things other people had done to you, things from past relationships, ways that you refuse to be treated anymore. This is the time to create those new boundaries, those new standards, and a whole new you. This process over the next 6 weeks could completely transform you for the rest of your life if you choose to lean into it and to surrender. And however much you choose to lean in and surrender to all that is coming up for you is how much you're going to be able to launch forward and catapult into your future. So I encourage you to get ugly, to get messy, to get raw, to get real, to get authentic with yourself, at least for a little bit. And know that this is exactly what you need to launch, right? It's kind of like you're a spaceship, and we spent years and years, maybe even 30, 40, 50, 60 years building this spaceship, getting all of the little pieces together. And it's almost your launch day. It's almost time to launch. For you to literally leave this atmosphere, the realm that you've known your whole life, and embark on a completely new journey and a completely new you. I know it sounds like a big transformation, but it really just comes from being compassionate to ourselves, being kind to ourselves, practicing emotional intelligence within ourselves. Excuse me. Allowing ourselves to burp, fart, sleep, do whatever our body needs to do. And trusting that this is part of the process. This is part of our divine process. This is what we were designed and brought here to this planet to experience. If you feel like you've been experiencing difficulties, that's a really good reminder to have. We were brought here to experience the trash bag ripping and all the trash falling. We were brought here to experience having bad hair days. Whatever you're experiencing is what you were brought here to experience. So allow yourself to be fully here in this experience. Now, for the launching portion, for the expansion, something that I absolutely love is microdosing. And I have all of the resources that you need to get started, trainings, the specific materials, everything that you need in the description box down below. So go check that out for you can get started literally within 24 hours and have them in your hands. Another thing that I recommend for expansion is the same exact breathwork practice from before. We can use the same practices for different purposes. And what it comes down to is our intention, the intention to release and reset, or the intention to grow and expand. Whatever we're doing, we can always set an intention and align all parts of ourselves so that we can get exactly what we want out of this session. So you can use the same exact breathwork practices that are linked below also for expansion. Another thing that's going to help you a lot are doing manifestation rituals of absolutely any kind. Throw some salt over your shoulder, do cinnamon in the doorway, whatever it is, it's really going to support you in just playing with energy, playing with life, playing with trying things out. The next thing that is so incredibly effective, I cannot stress this enough, using affirmations. If it's hard for you to come up with affirmations for the issue that you're facing, put that into ChatGPT. Say to ChatGPT, hey, I'm feeling really insecure and procrastinating a lot. There's a lot of things that I want to get done. Can you send me 3 affirmations that can help me overcome this? And that's what it is to be with yourself every single day, to be your own best friend, to get help for yourself, right? You can also use ChatGPT for the final practice that I have recommended for us, which is visualization. Some of us are really good at visualizing our future, visualizing something. And for others, ChatGPT can offer us some visualization practices. You can put into ChatGPT, hey, describe to me a visual explanation of my vision, of my dream life, of my book nook corner that I can draw and scroll and do all of the things that feed into my soul. So this is very, very important to use the resources that we have available to us, even as spiritual beings. I use ChatGPT every single day. These resources were created to help us. And when we believe that we're above these resources or too good for these resources, that's when we find ourselves stuck in blockages and limitations. And I was that way too. I used to think that ChatGPT was just for finance bros. I had no idea how a spiritual channeler, a soul retrieval guide would even use an AI platform for something like that. But when you truly believe that everything in this world is meant to expand you, you're going to find so many different ways to use all of these resources. You're going to realize that you have a lot more resources than you originally thought, right? Our ego often lies to us and tells us that we are not equipped to handle life, not equipped to handle these obstacles or to handle whatever it is that we're facing. But we are equipped, and there's so many resources that can help us. That's really important to remember. So before we go, I just wanted to acknowledge you. There are so many things that we can do. There are so many ways that we can spend our time. And taking the time to master yourself, to pour into yourself, to understand the subtle energetics of what's going on in your own body and in the world, this is where you truly elevate your vibration. You establish higher levels of health, higher levels of wellness. You become inspirational. And when you do this, you can pour into all of the people in your life so much more. It's not just for you, right? Everyone around you gets to experience the best version of you too. So you're giving a gift not just to yourself, but also to your immediate environment. And I want to also share that there's extensive studies that show proof of our collective consciousness. When we do one breathwork journey, when we listen to one video like this, when we choose to do one thing to come into higher levels of mastery of ourselves, we elevate the collective consciousness. We contribute to higher levels of world peace. We contribute to the change that we want to see in this world. So, thank you so much for being in that journey with me of raising our vibration together, elevating the collective consciousness. And I would love to hear any key takeaways from you. So you can comment anything that you have gained, any lessons or wisdom that you are considering, questions that you have, or things that you want to add. You can share anything down below, and we will continue to rise together. So thank you all so much, and I'll see you in our next video.